All right, thank you for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Time to take a look at the dailies on Daybreak. We'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper, as always, where you have the lead story talks about the devaluation. It says devaluation pushes Nigeria's debt to 89.2 trillion naira as debt stock raised by 20.6 trillion naira in 5 months. Each Nigerian owing 418,000 naira, 779. So if you're wondering how much you are owing, even though you didn't personally take the loan, indirectly, according to the Nigerian government, you are owing 418,000 naira. And then you have another rider there. What government should do, experts are opining there. Then you have all the details on page 4. I think what's interesting is to know how much you are owing, according to this, new debt profile. So let's take a look at other papers. Sumaya?
All right. The major story on The Punch says, off-season the governorship polls, 220 police patrol vehicles deployed in Imo, Kogi, and Bayelsa. Reuters there says IG to complete deployment on Friday to redeploy Imo CP before polls. Betok bars VIP escorts and others personnel to curb vote buying and violence. You find all the stories on page 2 of the Punch newspaper there. There's a pictorial of the governor of Lagos State and, other people there. Beside the pictorial, we have commanders, others killed as military bombards the terrorists. You'll find this on page 45. Details of 70 recovered corpses with police. This is according to Abia State. You find this on page 8. At the bottom there, we have Lautech students sue Makinde for relocating the agric faculty. You find this on page 7. Traffickers excrete 86 heroin wraps, and NDLEA seizes 14.4 M opioids. You find this on page 4 and 5. Israel gives condition for ceasefire and deaths hit 11,000. You find this sad situation on page 7. At the top of the page there, we see Niger, Benue, Kano marketers hike fuel and blame the transport cost. The cooking gas scarcity hits Lagos, Katsina, and others. Now, there is collecting of pension unlawful, according to Falana. Falana tells Akpabio and others. You find this on page 45. Now, these are some of the stories on the Punch newspaper this morning.
All right. Let's take a look at the Daily Sun newspaper, where you have the lead story says, Labour adamant on strike over Ajero. NEC meets tomorrow to take decision. Flares Imo government urges presidency to intervene. His LP member, Onoche. So these are the stories around that. Another one says, no going back on enactment of whistleblower law, declares federal government. You have mammoth crowd as Diri ends Yenogwa campaigns. Rex appointments. LP threatens legal action. You have Neti reports Tinubu sued over failure to probe missing $15 billion and 200 billion naira oil revenue. So these are the main stories on the Daily Sun newspaper.
All right, The Nation at the top of the page says NLC, Imo government clash over attack on Ajairo's village. You find this on page 8. I mean, this keeps escalating more and more. We have Naira firm up will continue. APCON predicts Dangote repatriates $687 million from African operations. Jaiz Bank grew profits by 74% in the third quarter of 2023. Below the headmaster, it says Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi 2023. Yakubu challenges INEC staff members on integrity. Diri draws huge Yenogwa crowd in final campaign rally. Ajaero is partisan, says Lauretta Onoche. You find all the stories on page 7. Banks' assets base rose to 125 trillion naira in the third quarter. The major story says, why central bank must bring down inflation by Sanusi, give agri priority, and Cardoso, we are changing Apex Bank's policy direction. With Nigerians are hoping on all that. You'll find this on page 4. There is President Tinubu heads to Saudi with investment operations. And at the belt there it says 19 years after final severance benefits for airways workers. These are some of the stories on the Nation this morning.
All right. Now, on the Vanguard newspaper this morning, you have so the lead story there says CBN Governor Cardoso vows to fight inflation. You also have other stories there that talks about forex gains. It says banks' profits balloon by 156% to 2.3 trillion naira. They also have other stories above the masthead. Why Nigerians should kiss free, fair and credible elections goodbye. That's Wodo. 5 days to Bielsa, Imo, Kogi governorship polls. Fear of violence, apathy looms. Tinubu leaves Abuja for Saudi summit this week. We also have other stories. Alleged buyers, IGP to redeploy Imo CP. We also have Forex. Dangote repatriates $687.977 million from Pan-African operations. Well, these are the main stories on the Vanguard newspaper.
Corruption, defiance to laws cost investors 1 trillion naira in property loss. This is the major story on The Guardian this morning. You find this on page 6. Refineries, I will hold NNPCL accountable for completion dates, says Lokpo Biri. We have almost 1 trillion naira worth of properties demolished in the last 14 months. The report on that one, you find it on The Guardian newspaper. Below there, we see below the pictorial there, it says Adelapu crashes landing in Ibadan airport and raises fresh concern on illegal charter operators. Atiku may be expelled from PDP, says former vice president's aide. IGP affirms readiness for weekends off cycle Cuba polls. We have the coalition laments Akeredolu's absence and impeachment crisis in Ondo. So that is still that going on there. We have Serap sues Tinubu over alleged missing of $15 billion and 200 billion naira oil funds. Now, these are some of the stories on the Guardian newspaper today.
All right, now let's take a look at some other papers that we have. We have the This Day newspaper this morning. Now, the lead story there, it says, Fitch, Nigeria's credit rating stable, predicts inflation at below 21%. Lokpobiri, we will hold NNPCL accountable for complete rehabilitation of all refineries by 2024. And then other stories there. Where are the savings from subsidy removal? Questions are now being asked. Well, these are the main stories on This Day newspaper. All right. So let's get perspectives to some of the stories that we have on the front pages this morning. We have in the studio Daniel Manson, who is our in-house analyst and newspaper reviewer. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Thank you very much. Nice having me.
All right. Well, let's start with one of the stories that has trended, I would say, or is still trending, rather, on the social media pages yesterday. The pronouncement by the Inspector General of Police to redeploy the Commissioner of Police in Imo State ahead of the off-cycle election in the state. A lot of fingers have been pointing, at the commissioner. Others alleging that he is being biased and somehow compromise, some of the expectations on him, and so on. And so Yesterday, we saw that town hall meeting where the IG decided, okay, we're going to redeploy him in the interest of neutrality, so that not that he is now found guilty of the allegations that have been leveled against him, but for the sake of neutrality and for the sake of confidence in the process and so on. What do you make of that?
I think that is a good decision by the IG, because we know how complicated and we know how the Imo election, the circumstances in that area, they have, and then it was better for him to remove him so that he will build up the confidence on the people to know that, look, we are going to vote and our votes are going to be counted. But if he doesn't remove him, there will be accusing fingers. Even if the present governor, win the election, people will say, okay, he's the one that actually helped to ensure that he retained the seat.
But how sure are we that whoever is coming in, is still not, it's not, part of, is not going to be seen from that light as well?
You see, sometimes it's the behavior of surely the security officers who are attached to some of these state governors. When you go to a place and then there's fair play, and then you give everybody the right to speak and other things, it will go a long way to help. But as he's there, people believe that he has been bought over by the governor, even though there may not be evidence, but sometimes there's no smoke, there's no fire without smoke. So it's a good decision that he took.
So Imo seemed to be, the focus of the federal government, because there's already a bit of spark coming from that angle. So apart from the security agents that have been pushed there, and of course there is already a bit of chaos about how there is one-sided, when it comes to that, what other best decision do you think the federal government needs to do in order to calm the situation or any other unforeseen situation that could arise?
All what the government needs to do to ensure that Imo is well secured and that people can go out and choose the leader that they want, they want him to, or her to lead them. That's one thing they need to do. And then secondly too, the government also need to fight to ensure that IPOP don't have any, they don't have any, their presence is not really felt, because we know what they have done to the psyche of the people in that region. And then lastly, you find out many people believe that the people of Imo are very critical in almost everything that they do, right? Not just during civilian, even during the military government days, they have such kind of things. So the state is quite a very complicated place.
And, perhaps before this current administration, you may say Imo was very quiet. You can argue that Imo was quiet. It's from the same Imo state that we had that clash between the leadership of the NLC. Is it with the security agencies now, the police, even though there have been denial in that respect, where the NLC leadership went on a protest, in the state to protest what they consider, the maltreatment of workers in the state and so on. And then that clash happened where the leader, the NLC chairman, was beaten, and all that. And now NLC is threatening to embark, on a strike in respect to that. Why do you think that Imo has now become this, hotbed, if you like? Is there any correlation between, what happened politically before the coming of the current governor? Recall how, the court, was, ruled, gave an order, and now made the current governor the governor. People argue that how is it that someone from the fourth position became the first position in the election, or is it the third position, and so on? How did we get here? How did Imo become this hotbed?
Imo has always been controversial, even during the military days. You remember the Otokotro saga, I don't know whether you remember that time. You remember the Rochas case, and then this one. So Imo has a peculiar kind of nature because there are a lot of controversies in that very state, you know. So what happened with the Ajero and co, to me it wasn't surprising. He's from that area, and then the people would like to, maybe the governor or whomever, or the people in that area would like to, you know, make a point.
But you would think that, you know, having NLC, you know, head from that state would actually help the people there, not make it controversial. So the outcome is surprising to other, you know, Nigerians.
It wasn't surprising to me because, as I told you, and then secondly too, Labour has lost that, you know, that steam that people used to know Labour. If it were during Oshomole times or Pascal Bafio, even when they send you to attack an NLC president, you will not go there. Even the police themselves, they will be the first security outfit that will ensure that he is protected. But it was a different thing, so this is just unfortunate.
So the NLC need to go back and sit down.
So you made a statement that Labour, the same Labour that we have now is not the same Labour that we had before. Why is that the case?
So many reasons. Maybe the level of awareness have increased than before. And then secondly, the trust that people have on leadership. You know, when you talk with Labour group leadership, is no longer there. For example, you see when they were planning for this strike, today people will prepare, okay, we shelve it, and then it created some kind of suspicion. Maybe this guy went and they were been given something to calm down, and then that confidence that the populists used to have on Labour is no longer there. And then their polarization, TUC, NLC, and you know the politicking between them, which is not hidden.
All right, let's move to another discussion here. Front page, the major story of the daily newspaper is saying devaluation pushes Nigeria's debt to 89.2 trillion naira. And we also heard of the central bank governor Kadusu coming out to promise that he will make an impact, you know, in order to reduce the inflation rate. And there's a bit of, you know, seeing how the naira is appreciating and the dollar is, you know, coming down. So what is your take on all this?
Well, you know, as I said, people are not playing the waiting game to see what the new CBN governor will do, even though the naira is trying to become stronger by appreciating with some few naira, you know. But there's much to be done. And the only way that can help us make our naira stronger is only when we start producing more than importing, you know.
We've all known that. I mean, there's always that debate of we need more productivity, we need to be more producing than at the receiving end. But at this point in time, the naira is, you know, like I said, appreciating. Do you think there is any probability of it going back to where it is before? Because at this point, we're about, naira is going for 800 and something naira. So do you think there's any probability that we might go back to that fear of it increasing?
It is very possible for us to even have the naira to be $2 to a naira. If we have the political will. Nigeria have everything it has that can, we have everything it takes that can make our naira to be stronger than the dollar and to even compete with the pounds. The only thing is that there should be a political will and then corruption. If all of if the people who are supposed to make Nigerians to join in the war against corruption, you know, and then if corruption is reduced to a barest minimum, why not?
All right, now looking at these numbers, very, very striking points here that have been made. So if you look at the story, it says that This new data, talking about 89.2 trillion naira debt, if you share it, to Nigerians, Nigeria's 213 million people, each citizens will be owing 418,779 naira to the outside world. So it means that for us sitting here now, if you do the maths, we are owing about 1.12 or 1.3 million naira, the three of us alone, in this studio and so on. And I'm wondering how that in a moment or at a time like this where many Nigerians are struggling to even feed, many Nigerians are struggling to live the normal life, yet they have a debt, that is, some of them have not even seen the amount, before. So it's just, technically speaking, this is where we are, as a country. So should we be, considering more debt? I mean, we've heard the arguments that it's okay to borrow. It's okay to borrow. We've heard that over and over again. But then it appears that the more we borrow, the more we don't seem to have the capacity to pay back.
Well, this borrowing didn't just start today. I remember when I was very young, there was one man they called Professor Ayagi. He made this prediction. He was warning Nigeria right in the 90s that, look, the money we are borrowing, we are going to make our children to become indebted and our great-great-grandchildren. And what the guy predicted, of blessed memory, is what that is happening. That's what is happening now, But when he was crying and I was making noise, people thought that he was crazy, he was a madman, But he foresee what is happening today. He was telling them that, look, why are you borrowing money and you are indebting the unborn generations who don't know what you did with the money, and they'll be asked to pay back. How will they pay back? So it's not just today that it started, but just sadly, if the only sad thing is that our people would have sat down and then said, okay, there have been words of wisdoms. If our past leaders have failed, we should find a way out. Because these debts will not help us in any way.
But in its own defense, like I said, the government argues that if they don't borrow, how do they invest in capital projects, for instance? How do we even get out of where we are now, economically speaking? So it looks as if the only option, the only way out is to borrow more money.
We should learn from Malaysia and other countries. Let our leaders lead by example. You understand? If the House would decide to say, okay, now I'm going to, each person a car will be given to you at the rate of how much? 130, 160 million. Do we need them? Or we should learn from Libya. When the wall closes its doors, they look inward. And then let us look inward. We have all it takes. And we have the scientists. All our research institutions, they have come up with a lot of researches. If we put them into practice, we will get what we want.
Yeah, but looking inwards means that we are self-sufficient in certain areas. So for instance, we shouldn't be talking about the epileptic power supply that we are dealing with right now. For us to be able to manufacture and produce and process things locally, it means that certain raw materials, we can source them. Yes, we have some of them here, but in most cases, manufacturers will have to source raw materials for some of the things that they produce outside and abroad and all that. So how do we go about it? I mean, the past administration came on the back of, let's eat what we produce, let's produce what we eat and so on. It was a major slogan for the previous administration,
But did they give
local manufacturing, patronage for local?
Did that administration, did they give the people who were supposed to produce what we should eat, did they give them the right, did they give the right people, the right producers? even the anchor borrowers, how many farmers, real farmers, that were able to have access to that fund? You understand? And if it is electricity, we in this country, we have many ways of producing electricity. For example, look at Katsina. Katsina have a power wing. You know, and then they have a windmill, sorry. They have a windmill which is supposed to produce about 10 megawatts. But that windmill, as it was almost 90% completion and was shut down for over 10 years now, nothing has been done. That windmill can produce enough power for the whole of Katsina State and even environs. You understand? The whole thing is lack of political will, and because we are not really ready, you know.
All right. I mean, the lack of political will is something that we keep pushing, and right now we have to just wait and see, you know, this set of administration, how, you know, willingly they are to put in the effort in order to make the country great. All right, let's talk about fuel hike. You know, in some parts of Nigeria, we see Niger, Benue, Kano marketers, you know, increasing the fuel, you know, hike, and they are blaming it on transport cost. I mean, even in the FCT, we've seen how, you know, the fuel price pump has moved from 600 and I think 15, 17 to 20 to about 6. I bought for last time 645. Yeah. So it keeps increasing just quietly, and at this point, Nigerians are not even coming out to even say it anymore. So there has been a speculation that this could even escalate more. Are we heading towards that, though?
Well, because they are helpless. Most of them are helpless. That is why everybody has kept quiet. If you cry, nobody is ready to wipe your tears. So what do? Will you keep on crying so that you will develop headache?
But that's the difference, you know, with us here. There has always been that saying that Nigerians don't really push. They get tired and they stopped. Meanwhile, when you're looking at other developed countries, since we are heading towards that, we are hoping to get there, they never get tired of calling out the government. But us, we just start at a pace and then everything just go down low.
No, time is coming that everybody will wake up. When you wake up one day and you don't have what to eat, and if you're supposed to come here,
I mean, aren't we there yet? Aren't we there yet? I mean, well, for some people here in this same country, we have people right now who, before now, at least they can manage to, I mean, feed. But now they are not even sure.
No, the population
they've
is
literally
increasing.
been turned to beggars. Yeah. Some of them who are running businesses no longer have those petty businesses that they do to put food on their table. They've literally been turned to beggars now because of maybe one policy after another. It was from cash scarcity. After cash scarcity, now we are talking about, you know, fuel hike, removal of subsidy, and so on. So it's from one policy to another that has been hitting Nigerians hard. Really.
No, you know, the elites,
I mean, from 2020, I would say.
You know, the elites, let me tell you, because the state failed its citizens, the elites manipulated the psyche of many Nigerians by using religion, by using tribe, by using... but as the level of hunger is increasing, you know, hunger does not know religion, it doesn't know tribe, it doesn't know color. When that time reach, everybody will now know that I can no longer be manipulated. And I'm praying for that day not to reach, because we don't know what's going to happen. When people will say, if I die, so what is it? If I'm alive, so what is it? The only thing, the wake-up call is for this present administration and all Nigerians to sit down and say, what is the way forward? And then let's face the reality, and then let us move.
All right. All right, well, thank you so much for joining and sharing your thoughts. Daniel Manson, he is our in-house newspaper analyst. We thank you for joining us on the program and sharing your perspectives with us.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the program for today. In case you've missed, you can always catch up across all our social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Join us tomorrow again.
And I am Sumaya Abubakar. Thank you so much for watching. Please do stick around for Emmanuel Fashemi. I'll be bringing you 360 sports updates. Do have a lovely day. Bye-bye.